The house on Thornhill Lane was the kind of place that made you quicken your step as you passed by, its looming presence casting a shadow even on the brightest days. The stone walls, blackened by age, were cracked and crumbling, with ivy twisting through the gaps like the fingers of something trapped within. The windows, smeared with grime, resembled lifeless eyes, empty, staring, but somehow always watching. It had been empty for decades, avoided by locals who whispered about the dark history it held. Children dared each other to approach, but none were brave enough to linger, for everyone in town knew that the house had secrets. When the Larkins family bought the house, the townsfolk exchanged uneasy glances. Thomas Larkins, a confident lawyer, and his wife Margaret, who loved the challenge of restoring old things, were eager to start their new life in the countryside. Their children, Emily and Jack, thrilled by the adventure, saw the house as a place of endless mystery and fun. They moved in on a blistering summer day, the sun glaring down as if to challenge the darkness of the house. For a brief time, everything seemed normal. The family unpacked, filled the empty rooms with their laughter, and Margaret sketched out plans for renovations. Yet the house, silent and patient, began to reveal its true nature. The first sign was subtle. On their second night, Emily woke to the sound of scratching at her bedroom door. Sleepy and disoriented, she dismissed it as a branch brushing against the side of the house. But when she opened her eyes fully, she saw the door slowly creak open. The hallway beyond was pitch black, a yawning void, and though she peered into it, she could see nothing. The darkness seemed to breathe, pressing in on her until she slammed the door shut, her heart racing. The next morning, Jack discovered his toys had been moved during the night. They were on the shelf, he insisted, but when I woke up, they were lined up on the floor, like they were marching. Margaret brushed it off as the antics of an imaginative child, but unease gnawed at her. The air in the house felt wrong, too thick, too heavy. It was as though they were not alone, as though something unseen was watching, waiting. As the days passed, the odd occurrences became impossible to ignore. Objects disappeared only to reappear in strange places. The family dog, Max, refused to enter certain rooms, growling low and menacingly at empty corners. At night, the creaking of floorboards echoed from above, as though someone, or something, was pacing the upper floors. But whenever they checked, they found nothing. Thomas remained the skeptic, dismissing the incidents as quirks of an old house. But Margaret knew better. She felt the tension in the air, the way the shadows seemed to stretch towards them, hungry and alive. One evening, while searching the attic, Margaret stumbled upon a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. Inside, she found a dusty, leather-bound journal. The cover was cracked with age, and the pages were yellowed and brittle. Despite the chill running down her spine, she opened it, curiosity overpowering her fear. The journal belonged to Eliza Thornhill, the house's original owner. As Margaret read, the words on the pages twisted her stomach with dread. Eliza had lived in the house with her husband and their 3 children. But as the entries progressed, they grew darker, more frantic. Eliza wrote of her husband's change, how he had become cruel and distant. The children were plagued by nightmares, waking in terror from dreams of a tall, shadowy figure that loomed over their beds. They heard whispers that came from nowhere, voices that called their names, beckoning them into the dark. Eliza described a presence in the house, a malevolent force that watched them, waited for them. The final entry was barely legible, smeared with what looked like blood. Eliza's words were a frantic scrawl, her fear palpable on the page. She wrote of her husband's descent into madness, of the night her children vanished without a trace. "The house has taken them," she wrote. "It demands more. It won't stop until it has us all." Margaret dropped the journal, horror flooding her veins. She could feel it now, the same presence that Eliza had written about, lurking in every shadow, every corner. The house was alive, feeding on their fear, growing stronger with every moment. She bolted down the stairs, heart pounding in her chest. But as she reached the bottom step, she froze. The house had gone deathly silent, a silence so complete it felt suffocating. The air pressed down on her, thick and heavy with an unseen menace. In the living room, she found Thomas staring blankly at the wall, his eyes glazed over, as if in a trance. She shook him, called his name, but he remained unresponsive, as though the house had taken hold of him, just as it had done to Eliza's husband all those years ago. Panic surged through her. She had to get her children out, now. She grabbed Emily and Jack, their confused protest drowned out by her terror. They piled into the car, and she sped down the dark, winding road, leaving everything behind. As they fled, Margaret glanced in the rearview mirror. For just a moment, she thought she saw a figure standing in one of the windows. A tall, shadowy figure watching them leave, its dark form barely visible through the grime-streaked glass. The Larkins never returned to Thornhill Lane. The house still stands, its windows dark and empty, yet somehow still full of that unsettling presence. Some say, on quiet nights, you can hear faint whispers or the eerie sound of children's laughter drifting from within. But no one goes near it. Not anymore. The house waits, patient and hungry, knowing that one day, someone else will come. Thank you for listening. We hope you've enjoyed the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button, and we'll notify you when the next story comes out.